Commander Zax Thule stared at the holographic display floating above his desk, his four eyes blinking in different patterns as he processed the information. The Galactic Military Command had just issued the most unusual bounty request in the history of the Confederation. A single human military unit had somehow escaped from the heavily fortified prison planet of Kepler 442b. And now every major military contractor in the galaxy was being asked to hunt them down. The numbers on the screen made his scaled skin ripple with excitement. 100 million galactic credits for the capture of 12 human soldiers. That was enough money to buy a small moon, or retire to the pleasure worlds of the Centauri system. For a veteran reptilian commander like himself, it should have been the easiest job of his career. Zax Thule had been hunting dangerous criminals and escaped prisoners for over 30 standard years. His company, Stellar Pursuit Solutions, was known throughout the Orion Arm for their perfect success rate. They had never failed to bring back a target, dead or alive. The reptilians were natural hunters, with enhanced senses and lightning-fast reflexes that made them perfect for this kind of work. His communication device chimed, and the face of his business partner appeared on the screen. Kethmore was an insectoid from the hive worlds, with compound eyes that could track multiple targets simultaneously. Together, they had built the most successful bounty hunting operation in the sector. "Have you seen the new contract?" Kethmore's mandibles clicked excitedly as he spoke through the translator. 12 humans escaped from Kepler 442b 3 days ago. The military command is offering a fortune for their return. Zax Thule nodded, his forked tongue flicking out to taste the air. Something about this job felt different, but he couldn't identify what was bothering him. "I've been reading their files. These aren't ordinary criminals, Kethmore. They're something called Special Forces from the human military." Then, "So what?" Kethmore's antennae twitched dismissively. "Humans are still primitives compared to us. They've only been in space for a few hundred years. How dangerous could they possibly be?" The reptilian commander pulled up the prisoner's records on his screen. The files were surprisingly brief, with most of the information classified at levels far above his security clearance. What little he could see made for interesting reading. The humans had been captured during a raid on a Confederation supply depot in the Outer Rim. Somehow, just 12 of them had managed to steal enough military supplies to arm a small rebellion before being caught. "Look at this." Zax Thule highlighted a section of the report. "It took 3 full battle cruisers and over 5,000 troops to capture them. And even then, the humans only surrendered after they ran out of ammunition." Kethmore's compound eyes focused on the data. "Impressive for primitives. But that just means they're dangerous when cornered. We'll use long-range weapons and keep our distance. Simple hunting tactics." The first sign that this job might be different from their usual work came when Zax Thule started reaching out to his network of contacts. He had spent decades building relationships with informants, smugglers, and pirates throughout the galaxy. These people usually jumped at the chance to earn easy money by providing information about escaped prisoners. This time was different. The first 3 contacts he called refused to even discuss the job. The fourth, a crystalline trader named Shardek, agreed to meet in person at a neutral space station orbiting a dead star system. The meeting location itself was unusual. Shardek typically preferred to conduct business over secure communication channels. The space station was old and barely functional, the kind of place where beings from different species could meet without drawing attention from the authorities. Zax Thule arrived early and waited in a dimly lit cantina that smelled of recycled air and desperation. When Shardek finally appeared, his normally bright crystal formations were dim with worry. "I cannot help you with this hunt, old friend," Shardek said without preamble, his voice resonating through his crystalline body. "These humans you seek are not ordinary prey." "What makes you say that?" Zax Thule leaned forward, his predatory instincts alert. "They're just escaped prisoners. Dangerous ones, perhaps, but still just 12 beings against the entire galaxy." The crystalline being's form flickered with nervous energy. You do not understand what humans are capable of when they are truly desperate. I have heard stories from the Outer Rim, tales that would make even a reptilian hunter think twice. Stories? Zaxthul's voice carried a note of skepticism. I deal in facts, not rumors. Shardek reached into his carrying pouch and produced a small data crystal. This contains security footage from the Zerion mining facility. Last year, human special forces raided that installation to rescue some of their people who were being held as slaves. The reptilian commander inserted the crystal into his portable viewer. The footage showed a mining asteroid deep in space, surrounded by defensive platforms and patrol ships. The installation was a fortress, designed to be impregnable. Then, the humans arrived. What Zaxthul saw defied everything he thought he knew about warfare. The human assault team didn't attack the facility directly. Instead, they used the asteroid's own mining equipment against the defenders, turning industrial lasers into weapons and causing controlled cave-ins that separated the guards from their reinforcements. They moved through the facility like shadows, appearing where they were least expected and vanishing before the defenders could respond. But it wasn't just their tactics that impressed the reptilian hunter. It was their determination. When cornered, the humans didn't surrender or try to negotiate. They fought with a ferocity that seemed almost suicidal, yet somehow they kept winning. One human soldier, wounded and cut off from his team, held off an entire platoon of Zerion security forces for over an hour, using nothing but improvised explosives and pure stubborn will. How many humans were in this raid? Zaxthul asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. 12, Shardek replied quietly. The same number you're being asked to hunt now. The footage continued, showing the aftermath of the raid. The humans had rescued their people and escaped, but the mining facility was left in ruins. Hundreds of guards were dead or wounded, and the entire operation had been shut down permanently. The economic damage ran into billions of credits. This could be a coincidence, Zaxthul said, but his voice lacked conviction. There are probably many 12-member human special forces teams. Shardek's crystalline form pulsed with a pattern that indicated disagreement. I have made inquiries through my network. The humans you seek are the same ones who raided Zerion. They are also the ones who destroyed the slave markets on Rigel VII, and who turned the tide in the battle for the Vega colony. The reptilian hunter felt a chill run down his spine. The destruction of the Rigel slave markets had been big news throughout the galaxy. An entire criminal empire had been brought down in a single night by what witnesses described as ghosts with guns. The Vega colony battle was even more famous. A small human settlement had somehow repelled an invasion, force 10 times their size. Why are you telling me this? Zaxthul asked. If these humans are so dangerous, why risk warning me? Because I owe you a debt from the Proxima job, Shardek replied. And because I have seen what happens to hunters who underestimate human special forces. The smart ones walk away. The stubborn ones don't come back. After leaving the meeting, Zaxthul spent the next day researching everything he could find about human military capabilities. What he discovered disturbed him more than he wanted to admit. Humans were relative newcomers to the galactic community, but they had already developed a reputation among military strategists as unpredictable and dangerously innovative. Unlike most species, humans seemed to excel at irregular warfare. While other races focused on superior technology and overwhelming force, humans specialized in making the impossible work through sheer bloody-minded determination. They were known for their ability to adapt quickly to new situations, and for their willingness to sacrifice everything for their mission objectives. The more he learned, the more Zaxthul began to understand why the bounty was so high. The Galactic Military Command wasn't just offering payment for 12 ESCA 3 weeks had passed since the bounty was posted, and the results were starting to speak for themselves. The first team to take the contract had been the Theta Mercenaries, a group of cybernetically enhanced mechanoids known for their ruthless efficiency. They had tracked the humans to a small asteroid mining station in the Crab Nebula, confident that their superior technology would make quick work of 12 primitive soldiers. The distress signal from their ship had lasted exactly 47 seconds before cutting off permanently. When rescue teams arrived at the location 2 days later, they found the Theta mercenaries' vessel drifting in space, all systems offline. The crew was still alive, but their cybernetic implants had been turned against them, leaving them as helpless as newborn infants. The humans were nowhere to be found, and neither was the mercenaries' supply of weapons and equipment. The second attempt had been made by the notorious Void Stalkers, a pack of lupine hunters who prided themselves on never losing a scent once they picked up a trail. They had actually managed to corner the humans on a dead moon orbiting a gas giant. The engagement lasted for 6 hours, and when it was over, only 3 of the 12 lupine hunters were still alive. They refused to talk about what had happened, saying only that humans fought like creatures who had already died and just hadn't realized it yet. Word was spreading through the underground networks that connected bounty hunters, mercenaries, and pirates throughout the galaxy. The humans weren't just escaping from their pursuers. They were turning the tables and hunting the hunters. Each failed attempt provided them with new equipment, new intelligence, and new reasons to stay ahead of anyone following them. Captain Voss Ironborn, leader of the most successful pirate fleet in the Outer Rim, was considering the contract when his first officer brought him disturbing news. 3 of their allied crews had tried to collect the bounty independently. 2 had simply vanished, without sending so much as a distress call. The third had been found on a backwater planet, their ship stripped of everything valuable, and their crew deposited at a spaceport with a message carved into the hull. "Stop hunting us, and we'll stop hunting you." "These humans," Voss muttered, his mechanical jaw clicking as he processed the information. "They're not running scared like normal escapees. They're conducting a strategic withdrawal while eliminating threats to their operation." His first officer, a scarred veteran named Grimm, nodded grimly. "The word from the information brokers is that the humans are actually getting stronger as time goes on. Every ship they capture gives them better weapons and equipment. Every crew they defeat teaches them more about galactic military tactics." Captain Ironborn had built his reputation on knowing when to fight and when to walk away. This felt like a situation where the smart move was obvious, but the amount of money involved made it hard to think clearly. 100 million credits would set up his entire crew for life, assuming any of them survived to collect it. The real turning point came when news arrived about the fate of the Draconian Death Squad. The Draconians were legendary throughout the galaxy for their skill in small unit combat. They were born warriors, with natural weapons and armor that made them formidable opponents for anyone foolish enough to face them directly. If anyone could take down 12 human soldiers, it should have been them. The Death Squad had tracked the humans to a derelict space station orbiting a collapsed star. It should have been a perfect ambush site. Multiple entry points, confined spaces that favored close combat, and nowhere for the humans to retreat. The Draconians deployed with their usual precision, surrounding the station and cutting off all escape routes. What happened next became the subject of whispered conversations in every military cantina from the core worlds to the frontier. The humans had somehow turned the entire station into a weapon. Ancient automated systems that should have been dead for centuries suddenly came online, trapping the Draconian forces in a maze of closing blast doors and reactivated security systems. But that wasn't the worst part. The humans had studied their enemies before the confrontation, learning about Draconian psychology and combat doctrine from captured databases. They knew that Draconians were proud warriors who would never retreat from a direct challenge, so the humans gave them exactly what they expected: single combat duels in the station's old gladiatorial arena. One by one, the Draconian warriors were challenged to individual fights. Their honor code demanded that they accept, even though they knew it might be a trap. The humans fought with weapons and tactics that the Draconians had never encountered, using their environment in ways that seemed impossible. More importantly, they fought with a level of intensity that shocked even the warrior race. When the last Draconian fell, the humans made an announcement that was broadcast throughout the galaxy. Their leader, a woman identified only as Lieutenant Colonel Sarah Chen, delivered a message that sent chills through every bounty hunter in known space. "To anyone else considering hunting us," she said, her voice calm and professional, despite the bodies scattered around her feet. "We are United Earth Special Forces, and we have one mission. Get home. We didn't choose this war, but we'll finish it. Every team you send after us makes us stronger. Every weapon you give us becomes our weapon. Every tactic you use teaches us how to beat you. We suggest you find easier prey." The message was accompanied by technical specifications for every piece of equipment the humans had captured, along with detailed analysis of the weaknesses they had discovered in various alien military systems. It was a demonstration of their intelligence capabilities that worried military commanders more than their combat prowess. Within days of the broadcast, 3 major mercenary companies announced that they would not be accepting contracts related to the escaped humans. The official reason was scheduling conflicts, but everyone knew the real reason. The risk was too high, and the targets were too dangerous. The Galactic Military Command tried to sweeten the deal by increasing the bounty to 200 million credits and offering additional support to any team willing to take the contract. They provided detailed intelligence reports, military-grade equipment, and even offered to assign regular Navy vessels to assist with the hunt. The response was underwhelming. A few small-time operators took the contracts, drawn by the massive payoff, and convinced that they could succeed where others had failed. They disappeared one by one, sometimes leaving behind cryptic messages about humans who seemed to know everything about their hunters before the first shot was fired. The reality was becoming clear to anyone with sense. These weren't ordinary escaped prisoners. They were elite soldiers, from a species that specialized in winning impossible battles, and they had been given every motivation to demonstrate exactly why humanity had earned its reputation as one of the most dangerous races in the galaxy. Commander Zaxthul found himself fielding calls from other bounty hunters, all asking the same question. Had he taken the contract? When he told them he had declined, many seemed relieved. Some even thanked him for sharing his research about human military capabilities. "You saved my crew," one Mantis hunter told him over a secure channel. "We were about to take the job when your warnings reached us through the network. After what happened to the Draconians, I'm convinced these humans are too dangerous to hunt." The most telling conversation came from an old friend who worked as a military contractor for the Confederation Navy. General Krextos was a veteran of dozens of campaigns and one of the most respected strategic minds in the galaxy. When he contacted Zaxthul privately, his message was brief and disturbing. "The brass is getting desperate," the general said, his telepathic communication carrying undertones of worry. "These 12 humans are making the entire Confederation military look incompetent. Every failed hunt damages our reputation and makes other species question whether we're as powerful as we claim to be. So why not use regular military units instead of bounty hunters?" Zaxthul asked. "Because that would be admitting that 12 escaped prisoners represent a threat that requires the full attention of our armed forces. The political implications would be catastrophic. It's better to let mercenaries and bounty hunters take the blame for failing to capture them." The reptilian hunter felt a moment of clarity. 6 months after the escape from Kepler 442b, the situation had evolved far beyond anyone's expectations. The 12 human Special Forces soldiers had not only evaded capture, but had somehow managed to contact elements of the Earth resistance operating in other parts of the galaxy. Intelligence reports suggested that they were now coordinating with hidden human cells throughout Confederation space, turning their escape into the foundation for a much larger operation. The bounty had been increased to 500 million credits, but there were no takers. Even the most desperate mercenaries had heard the stories by now. The humans had developed a reputation that bordered on the mythical. They appeared where they were needed, struck at critical infrastructure, and vanished before anyone could respond. More importantly, they had started recruiting. Admiral Thorekval of the Confederation Third Fleet received the intelligence briefing with mounting concern. The humans weren't just running anymore. They were building something, and every failed attempt to capture them had provided them with resources, information, and proof that the galaxy's greatest military power couldn't stop 12 determined soldiers. "Show me the latest incident reports," the Admiral commanded his intelligence officer. The holographic display filled with data points scattered across 3 spiral arms. Each point represented a successful human operation. Supply depots destroyed. Prison ships liberated. Communication arrays sabotaged. The pattern was unmistakable. The humans were systematically degrading Confederation military capabilities while building their own network of allies. "Sir," the intelligence officer said carefully, "we're no longer tracking just 12 humans. Current estimates suggest they've recruited between 200 and 300 beings from various species. Former prisoners, sympathizers, and even some deserters from our own forces." The Admiral's tentacles writhed with agitation. This was exactly what the Confederation had feared. Humans had a documented ability to inspire loyalty in other species, turning enemies into allies through a combination of tactical brilliance and moral conviction. It was one of the traits that had made them so dangerous during their initial resistance to Confederation rule. What about the bounty hunters? Surely someone is still willing to pursue them for 500 million credits. His aide consulted her datapad nervously. "Sir, most of the major mercenary companies have issued formal statements, declining any contracts related to human special forces. The few independent operators who have tried have either disappeared or returned with reports that defy military logic." The Admiral leaned forward, his attention focused. "What kind of reports?" "What?" "Claims that the humans somehow know about incoming threats before they arrive, that they can predict ambush sites and trap locations with impossible accuracy. Some hunters report being counter-ambushed by forces that seem to know their exact plans and capabilities." Admiral Threk Val had spent enough time fighting humans to understand what that meant. Human Special Forces units were trained to gather and analyze intelligence with ruthless efficiency. After months of hunting expeditions, they would have collected detailed information about every major military contractor in the galaxy. They probably knew more about bounty hunter tactics than the hunters themselves. The real crisis came when Captain Voss Ironborn, one of the most notorious pirates in known space, made an announcement that sent shockwaves through the criminal underworld. Ironborn had built his reputation on taking jobs that other pirates considered too dangerous, but even he had limits. "I'm officially withdrawing my fleet from any operations targeting human special forces," Ironborn declared, in a message broadcast throughout the Outer Rim. "These aren't just soldiers. They're apex predators who have adapted to hunt the hunters. Any crew stupid enough to go after them deserves what happens next." The announcement was accompanied by footage from Ironborn's own encounters with the humans. His fleet had attempted to track them through the asteroid fields of the Serpent Nebula, confident that superior numbers and firepower would guarantee victory. Instead, they had been led into a carefully orchestrated trap that turned the asteroid field into a maze of destruction. The humans had somehow rigged dozens of asteroids with improvised explosives, creating a chain reaction that disabled half of Ironborn's fleet without firing a single shot from their own weapons. Then they had boarded the pirates' ships, not to kill or capture, but to deliver a message and demonstrate their capabilities. "They could have killed us all," Ironborn admitted in his broadcast. "Instead, they took our weapons, copied our computer files, and left us with a warning. Stop hunting us, or the next encounter won't be so friendly. I've fought wars across 3 sectors, but I've never seen anything like their tactical precision." The message included technical schematics showing how the humans had converted mining charges into military-grade explosives using nothing but spare parts and chemical compounds found in any industrial facility. It was a masterclass in improvised warfare that revealed capabilities far beyond what anyone had expected from escaped prisoners. Within weeks of Ironborn's announcement, the underground networks that connected criminals and mercenaries throughout the galaxy began sharing a new piece of conventional wisdom. Hunting human special forces was suicide. The few crews that ignored this advice simply disappeared, adding to the growing legend of 12 soldiers who had somehow become the most feared beings in Confederation space. The political implications were becoming impossible to ignore. Senator Vexistra of the Centauri Council raised the issue during a closed session of the Confederation Senate, arguing that the continued failure to capture the escaped humans was undermining the government's authority throughout the galaxy. "We have created martyrs," Senator Vextra declared, her crystalline voice resonating through the chamber. "Every failed attempt to capture them proves to oppressed populations that the Confederation can be defied successfully. We are facing the beginning of a galaxy-wide rebellion. And it started with 12 humans that we should have been able to capture in a matter of days." The response from the military leadership was predictably defensive. General Krantor of the Strategic Command argued that the situation was under control and that the humans would eventually be captured or eliminated. But privately, military planners were beginning to acknowledge that conventional approaches had failed completely. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Dr. Yithlex, a xenopsychologist who specialized in human behavior, published a classified report that changed how the Confederation understood the threat they were facing. The report was leaked to several major news networks, causing a sensation throughout the galaxy. Human Special Forces units are not simply military organizations, Dr. Yithlex wrote. They are carefully selected and trained to operate independently in hostile territory for extended periods. Unlike other species, humans possess psychological traits that make them exceptionally suited for this type of warfare. Adaptability, creativity, determination, and an almost pathological refusal to surrender when defending their core values. The report went on to explain that the 12 escaped soldiers represented something far more dangerous than ordinary military personnel. They were members of an elite unit, specifically trained to survive, adapt, and ultimately thrive in exactly the kind of situation they now found themselves in. Every day, they remained free, made them more dangerous, not less. Conventional bounty hunting tactics assume that escaped prisoners will eventually make mistakes due to stress, desperation, or lack of resources, the report continued. Human special forces are trained to turn these disadvantages into strengths. They use stress as motivation, desperation as fuel for creativity, and lack of resources as an opportunity to demonstrate their improvisation skills. The most disturbing section of the report dealt with human recruitment abilities. According to Dr. Yithlex's research, humans were uniquely capable of inspiring loyalty in other species through a combination of personal example and shared adversity. The 12 soldiers weren't just evading capture, they were building a multi-species resistance movement that could potentially threaten Confederation control throughout the Outer Rim. The final straw came when the humans made their most audacious move yet. Lieutenant Colonel Sarah Chen, the leader of the escaped unit, transmitted a message directly to the Confederation Senate during a public session. Security forces were baffled by how she had managed to hack into one of the most secure communication systems in the galaxy. But the content of her message was even more shocking than the delivery method. "Honorable Senators," Chen began, her image appearing on every screen in the chamber. "I am Lieutenant Colonel Sarah Chen of the United Earth Special Forces. For the past 6 months, you have been trying to capture my team and return us to prison. I want to explain why this approach has failed and will continue to fail." The chamber erupted in chaos as security forces scrambled to cut the transmission. But somehow the human had anticipated their countermeasures. Her message continued despite their best efforts to stop it. "We are soldiers, not criminals. We were captured while defending our people against an illegal occupation. We escaped because imprisonment without trial violates every principle of justice that civilized beings should respect. We have evaded your hunters because we fight for something worth dying for, while they fight only for money." Chen paused, allowing her words to sink in before delivering the real bombshell. "We are no longer alone. Beings from dozens of species have joined our cause, not because we forced them, but because they recognize that the Confederation's power depends on fear rather than justice. Every failed attempt to capture us has proven that 12 determined soldiers can defy the greatest military force in galactic history." The transmission ended with coordinates for a neutral meeting site and an offer that stunned everyone who heard it. "If the Confederation wishes to end this situation peacefully, we are willing to negotiate." Not for our surrender, but for the freedom of all beings currently held in your prison planets without trial. We have proven that we cannot be captured by force. Now we offer you the chance to achieve through diplomacy what you have failed to accomplish through violence. The message sparked debates throughout the galaxy about justice, freedom, and the nature of legitimate government. More importantly, it marked the moment when 12 escaped human soldiers transformed from fugitives into the leaders of a galactic civil rights movement. In cantinas and meeting halls throughout Confederation space, beings began asking the same question. If 12 humans could defy the most powerful military alliance in galactic history, what could they accomplish if they weren't fighting alone? The answer to that question would reshape the galaxy in ways that no one could have predicted when those first bounty hunters arrogantly assumed that hunting human special forces would be easy money. This wasn't just about capturing escaped prisoners. It was about maintaining the illusion of Confederation supremacy. The humans had exposed a fundamental weakness in the galaxy's power structure, and now everyone was scrambling to contain the damage. What do you think will happen if no one can capture them? Zax Thul asked. General Krextos was quiet for a long moment before responding. Then 12 humans will have proven that the greatest military alliance in galactic history can be defied by a single squad of determined soldiers. That's not a precedent the Confederation can afford to set. The conversation ended with both beings understanding that this situation was spiraling beyond anyone's control. The humans weren't just evading capture. They were winning a propaganda war that they probably didn't even know they were fighting. Every day they remained free was another day that proved the Confederation's weakness. As Zax Thul sat in his office, staring at the ever-increasing bounty posting on his screen, he realized that the smart money wasn't on hunting the humans. The smart money was on getting as far away from this situation as possible, before it exploded into something that would reshape the political landscape of the entire galaxy. PED prisoners. They were offering payment for 12 beings who represented a fundamental challenge to everything the Confederation thought it knew about warfare. By the end of the day, Zax Thul had made his decision. He activated his communication system and contacted his business partner. Keth Moore, I'm sending you some files, he said when the insectoid appeared on screen. Read them carefully and then tell me if you still want to take this job. What kind of files? Keth Moore's compound eyes focused on the incoming data stream. Everything I could find about human special forces, and specifically about the 12 we're being asked to hunt. I think you'll find it educational. There was a long pause as Keth Moore reviewed the information. When he finally spoke again, his mandibles were clicking in the pattern that indicated extreme agitation. They've been fighting the Confederation for years. Not just fighting. Winning. Exactly. Zax Thul replied. And now they're loose in the galaxy, with every reason to avoid capture, and no reason to show mercy to anyone hunting them. Tell me, partner, is any amount of money worth facing beings who treat impossible odds as a personal challenge?